The Grid League is a sport based on speed, excitement, intensity, and close finishes. This yields a ton of dramatic moments, emotions, and sometimes controversy. The inter-conference event at the USA Fit Games was a perfect demonstration of all of it, with plenty of tight matches and controversial moments. The day kicked off with a really close match between the Southwest Florida Sharks and the South Beach Palms. Palms head coach and star utility player Bryleigh Hansen was questionable with an elbow injury coming into the match, but ended up contributing significantly in key races to keep the Palms in the hunt. The Sharks leaned heavily on their veteran talent, including Valerie Gunning and Sammy Nally, who were all over the grid along with bodyweight superstar Quentin Ambrosio. Ultimately, the match came down to the final race in sprint relay, and this is where the primary controversial moments of the day began. The Sharks won the race, but the head coach of the Sharks made contact with a player, which is, by rule, not allowed. Even though it is technically not allowed, it is quite common in the current form of Grid League, is usually let go, and has never been seen in a way that could affect such a pivotal moment of the sport. This has brought into question how it should be addressed in the rules. The penalty, as currently written in the rulebook, is a warning first, followed by a 2-second penalty on the following race if there are continued offenses. Because of this, no penalty or rerun could be called due to this specific infraction. The next issue that had to be addressed was the fact that immediately following that coach-player contact issue, the player being tagged in was on the grid during the tag. This is an illegal tag, and the referee should have forced the player to return to the start line prior to beginning her rep. This incident was then assessed under the definitively affected rule as follows. When disputes happen on the grid, the basis that determines if a race should be rerun is whether or not the referee mistake definitively affected the outcome of the race. The purpose of only allowing reruns under this condition is to minimize the need for reviews where incidents would most likely not have changed the outcome, and keep the action moving as much as possible in order to prioritize the viewer experience. Definitively affected is defined as a clear and distinct time expense that was equal to or greater than the difference in the race. In this instance, if the referees had executed the penalty properly, it would have only taken a second or two for the offending player to return to the start line because the infraction happened so close in proximity to the start line. That time expense was not close to the 7-second difference in the race, and therefore would not warrant a rerun. Because of this, the Sharks retained the sprint relay victory and the match win. The league commissioner released an official statement regarding the issue. At the beginning of every match event, we, as league officials, publicly recite our oath to the teams and fans of the sport of grid. The first line of the oath is as follows: I hereby pledge, upon my character as a man or woman, to uphold the rules and standards set forth for this match. We do not make adjustments to or create new rules without an official team owner vote, regardless of how it may seem in the moment. The exception is when safety is a concern, which was not the case here. We feel strongly that anything other than the decisions that were made would have been a violation of the oath we make to our community. We are a young sport, and it is expected that we will run into new scenarios that need to be addressed in the rules as we go. We will address those changes needed as a league, including the team owners, not as league officials in the heat of the moment. Team owners and league officials have already begun meetings to determine what rules, if any, should be changed as a result of this series of events. Next up was a match that could be considered even more dramatic in how it played out. The battle of two great teams featuring the defending champion Fort Lauderdale Lions versus a powerhouse in the North in the Orlando Aces. The Lions relied almost entirely on re-signed talent from last year, including stars Emiliana Guerra, Laura Sanchez, Paula Leyes, and Eric Cardona. The Aces also had a lot of returning talent involved, but rookies Janine Nicole, Ryan DiMatti, and married couple Kayla and Alex Hollings had massive impact. This match featured an extremely rare ladder tie and remained a tight score right down to the last race, which, if the Lions won, would result in a gridlock. A gridlock is a tie-break race that has only taken place 3 times in FGL history. The Lions did win it, yielding the gridlock race of the last 4 elements in the sprint relay with no substitutions. That race was also tight, but the Aces built up a lead for longtime grid player and strength specialist star Taylar Stallings as she faced Lion player Mario Santallo right on her heels in the final element of 2 clean and jerks at 200 pounds. She executed the lifts cleanly and maintained her lead through her sprint, bringing home the thrilling victory and making a strong statement about the status of the Aces in the North. The Lions still sit comfortably atop the Southern Conference, being the only team in that conference, with 2 wins and a big tie-break point lead. Heading into the third match of the day, the Battle of the Blue Bees took place in the Tampa Bay Brigade, taking on the Palm Beach Breakers. The Brigade looked strong, bouncing back from a year of an injury-riddled roster in 2022 and showcasing an absolute game-changing new signing in Sydney Wilson. She played a key role in several races, including a 5-snatch ringer point race at 150 pounds, where she pulled out a big win. She is well positioned to be a strength specialist star in the Grid League. The Breakers were missing some key players on the bodyweight side in Aaron Parker, Roberto Carrasquero, and Kendall Cannon. Their absence was felt in races featuring bodyweight elements, but the Breakers did put up a dominating victory in the latter with a league-leading score of 61 points. They have thrown the bonus flag in that race and won by a greater margin than 10 points, creating a full 3-point swing in a single race, which is very rare. Ultimately, the Brigade proved to be too strong and won by an 8-point margin. The day finished up with yet another controversial call featuring a matchup of 2 teams largely revamped from last year in the Daytona Venom and the Gainesville Wild. The Venom had some tough roster issues in Week 1, but it found some stability in the return of veteran star utility player Robbie Rodriguez and newcomer via mid-season signing in Dylan Florentine. The Wild were featuring mostly new talent to the league, including highly anticipated rookie Griffin Rowley and blue-haired rookie powerhouse Amanda Fisher. In true Grid League fashion, and for the third time in the day, the match came down to the final race. The race went smoothly until the final element, with the Wild building a big lead to that point. When Fisher entered the grid to perform her last element, 2 clean and jerks at 200 pounds, she was elitely joined by a teammate who had thought the race was over and was running to celebrate. In this situation, which had also never been seen before, the start line referee should have blown the start line violation horn, calling the performing player back to the start line before continuing on. After extensive review, it was again determined that had the violation been properly enforced, it would still not have impacted the race outcome. A difference of 17 seconds, as described in the definitively affected rule referenced earlier. This instance will also be reviewed in determining if any adjustments need to be made to the rulebook moving forward. More information will be released about these situations and the outcome of the lead discussions through our insider list. Sign up for free at thefgl.com/insider. Grid League is a radical new sport that rethinks the way team sports should be, featuring men and women together. It's full of excitement, adrenaline, and emotion. If you are a sports fan, there is no more entertaining way to spend 1.5 hours than to watch the action live. The next chance is August 26th in Tampa, Florida. Don't miss it.